There is one thing that we were missing from our theme, yes, which is quite crucial, and that is, of course, static resources, style sheets, scripts, you name it. So that's what we'll do now. So, of course, your theme is not complete without some styling. And as we have seen in the Orchid source code previously, you can actually put your static resources into a folder called www.root. And this is the folder where static resources will be automatically served without you doing pretty much anything. Now, as I also said, although you can put everything directly into this folder, it's a better practice and also a lot more flexible approach to actually create an assets folder, put all your style sheets and style sheets and your JavaScript files there, and not just put there and then copy over to wroots, but also build them in a way. For example, with something like gulp, you can build SCSS files or TypeScript files, or you can concatenate files. A lot of options there. We won't do that here because using gulp and SCSS and everything else is just as usual, so nothing changes here in Orchid with that. So we will just create a simple style sheet here in the webroot folder. And here, let's create something like site.css. That's usually the root CSS file's name that we use. And let's write some styling here. Now, of course, I won't write some complete styling here. Just something that we know that it actually works. And well, let's change the text color to red, so we can be sure that it actually worked. All right, now we have a CSS file. The second thing remaining here is to actually include it somehow to make it part of the website. And we have already overridden this layout.cs HTML file here. And at the time, I also told you that we have these resources tags here, which will actually display the static resources that you include. And that's what we'll utilize here. We won't actually directly include our style sheets, but we'll include it via Orchid's resource manager. Now, why is this interesting? Because here we have a layout.cs HTML file. Here you can include any CSS or JavaScript file right away. So super simple, that's good. But you can't just include all of those files in your layout.cs HTML file, right? Because this will be active on every page. You don't want to include every CSS file on every page. So if you have some complex contact form, for example, that has its own CSS file, you just want to include it there. Now, that's why Orchid has its resource manager. You don't directly include these files in the single layout.cs HTML file, which corresponds to the HTML document, but rather you are including all of these from the specific shape template with Orchid's resource manager. And what will happen is that, for example, even if you include a style sheet or anything from the title part shape template, Orchid's resource manager will pick it up and put it into the HTML output at the right place. So even though you have all these little bits of pieces in the layout, everything will just magically work together. So let's actually use the resource manager. And now, on contrary to what I just said, I will actually include the style sheet here in the layout.cs HTML file, but specifically because this particular CSS file is for the whole website, since we don't really have anything else. But exactly the same thing would work from the title part shape template as well, for example. So let's write something here. And again, we will use a tag helper called style. But it will be a bit different style than what you're used to. And with this, you will be able to include a style sheet. And well, here you have to specify the full virtual path of the style sheet. So in our case, it needs to include Dojo Course .theme, and then you also need to include the name of the CSS file. You don't have to include wwwroot because that's given. So we only need to add site.css here, and nothing else. For now, this is enough. So let me refresh here, and let's see what happens. A bit later, we'll also see how to do the same thing with scripts, which will be pretty much the same thing, but with a twist. So now that compilation happened, we should be able to see the results shortly. And here we have everything is in red. That's beautiful. Okay, you might say that it's a bit ugly, but whatever, it's beautiful. And that's it. Let's do the same thing with scripts actually, because that will be a tiny bit different. And let's create a script. Let's call it also site.js. And in this script, well, you know what will happen now. Of course, we will display an alert with a hello. A lot of greetings today, it seems. All right, and the next thing is, there is some IntelliSense error for me here, but that's actually an error in IntelliSense itself, it seems. And we also need to add this script somewhere. And how we do that, you may notice, or you may have guessed, that we also have a script tag here. So we can do the same thing with, again, with this kind of path, but instead site.js, and that's it. But there is one thing that you can do with scripts that you can't do with style sheets, and that's that you also can specify the location of them. By default, if you include a script like that, it will be included at the bottom of the HTML document. So actually where we have this resources type foot script, this will render all the so-called foot scripts, so all the scripts that will be included in the footer, so just before /body here. On the contrary of that, you can also have head scripts, which are rendered here. And well, head scripts are included in the head location. Usually, due to performance reasons, you would include scripts in the footer. But just to show you that this actually works, I included this in the head. So let's see what happens. And again, we are writing all of this from the layout.cs HTML. But if I would add this style inclusion here in title part .cs HTML, the same thing would work, because Orchard renders shapes from the bottom up, so from the leaf nodes, we could say it like that. Title part would be rendered, it would include the script or the style sheet, and we would get the hello message in exactly the same way. And if you take a look at the HTML output, we'll also see that here we are in the head of the HTML document, and indeed our script tag is here. By the way, do notice that we have some cache busting parameters here. So if you change your files, these parameters will also update, and that makes sure that browsers will always reload your static files if you change them. Even if there is some output cache or reverse proxy that caches all of these files, due to these parameters changing, your files will also change in the browser of your users. There is, of course, more to resource management, a bit more, but for now, this will be it.